Yeah, I wrote back. And I was like, what time did you start? She said, I forgot to respond. If it's 80 degrees, I'm back on the hard day. I'll volunteer for a couple of days.
A lot of the kids that use are excited to do it. Some of the kids he works with were like, okay, that needs to.
That's awesome. You need to stand up there for the remaining 30 seconds. Ready for this one? Or no, Tuesday. Now, is this, what's this?
Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? Barely? Okay. So you guys will learn while I'm faltering here. Okay, can you hear me better? And I'll talk louder. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, candidates and members of our community, I'm Jenny Fish, the Community Engagement Director for the Baldwin City Chamber of Commerce. I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you for joining us today at this crucial event for our community. This is a special occasion for our town as it allows us to come together, learn about the candidates, and make informed decisions about the future of our schools. Before we dive into the heart of today's program, I'd like to take a moment to introduce the ground rules that will govern this forum, ensuring that this event runs smoothly and fairly and is of utmost importance. So let's begin by outlining the rules that we as an audience and you, our candidates, please must adhere to. First and foremost, for the candidates, you'll notice that they are seated in order of district. This means that we'll start with District 1, then alternate to the next district for each question. This structure allows each candidate to have an equal opportunity to address the audience. Each question will be answered by each candidate. Furthermore, each candidate has been provided the first round of questions in advance. This gives them a fair opportunity to prepare thoughtful responses. One vital aspect of this is timing. Responses will be timed, and each candidate will have exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. Sticking to this time limit is very important. If a candidate exceeds the allotted time, our moderator, Sandy Chapman, will step in to ensure fairness and adhere to the schedule. To make this event accessible to our entire community, this forum is being live streamed on Facebook. It's also being streamed on YouTube and our website, baldwincitychamber.com. The coverage will remain on these sites after the conclusion of the forum, ensuring that as many people as possible can benefit from the information shared here today. If you can please refrain from taking photos and video, we would appreciate that, as you can find it online. For our audience, I want to emphasize that this is a listening session. We kindly request that you remain quiet and respectful throughout the forum. The success of this event hinges on maintaining a respectful and orderly atmosphere. Therefore, I must inform you that the moderator reserves the right to ask disruptive audience members to leave, ensuring that the focus remains on the candidates and their valuable insights. Finally, we want to hear from you, the community members. Questions can be submitted at the table in the back, and then we will be taking questions for the first 45 minutes of today's forum. So if you want to quietly stand up, ask a question, and then we will use the rest of the 20 minutes after those to form these questions. And again, the questions will be asked based on frequency. We encourage you to actively participate by submitting your questions. Okay, sorry. Before we dive into the forum, I have the honor of introducing our moderator for today, Sandy Chapman. Sandy is a distinguished member of our community known for her fairness and integrity. We trust her to guide this discussion fairly and effectively. The forum is about coming together as a community, learning about our candidates, and making informed decisions about our school's future. Thank you for joining us today, and now I will pass it to Sandy Chapman.
Thanks, Jenny. All right, candidates, are we ready? Audience, good? Yeah? All right. So I'm happy to be here today as your moderator. Our first question today is, what should your school district do to better prepare students as citizens? Yeah. We're going to start with candidate Jamie Cox from District 1. The mic is yours. Thanks.
Hello. We have to increase the opportunities for our students to become ready for life post-secondary education. The biggest glaring need for this is our lack for career technical education courses and resources for those. We have to improve in this area and fund the resources to make them successful. I've heard my opponent speak of using internships in the community to broaden these CTE pathways. While good in theory and they could be involved, community business volunteers are not certified teachers. Therefore, this would not count towards their graduation requirements for those students. Currently, our junior high students don't have any options for family and consumer sciences. Life lessons like cooking, cleaning, money management, etc. are taught in those classes. Many of the surrounding junior highs provide those courses and are setting their students up to be successful and independent even before they graduate. At the elementary levels, we failed to provide our students with any form of basic fundamental classes in keyboarding or computer science. Teachers get tasked with teaching tech skills in addition to providing fundamental instruction on core classes. Our students are starting junior high and high school with deficiencies in typing, word processing, and spreadsheet work. Finally, we need to increase our foreign language options across the district. Currently in Baldwin, our students do not have access to foreign language courses until 7th grade. Enrollment in those classes is low. Research shows that foreign languages are easiest to learn when introduced at younger ages. Our society is global, diverse, and cross-cultural. We need to maximize opportunities for student success by capitalizing on early language opportunities.
Thank you. All right, we'll now hear from the second candidate, candidate Michael Kennedy. Sorry, I told you I'd miss that.
It's okay, Susan. Thank you very much. So for schools, it's primarily about fostering academic excellence, discipline and resiliency, and civics. First, I think of a citizen as one who's able to understand the privileges and obligations one has in society and contribute to that society in their own unique way. Children become prepared for citizenship through numerous means, through family values, religious organizations, schools, of course, participation in sports, youth programs like Scouts and 4-H, and information from a free press. School district's primary goal here is to equip students with the ability to effectively take in information around them, analyze and problem solve, and communicate and act in a productive manner as a part of society. Inevitably, a school's role is ties to supplying the students tools to read, write, draw concrete conclusions through math and scientific means. That's academic excellence. A second goal is to reinforce discipline, both in the sense of hard work and accountability for your actions, while on school grounds and in learning activities. Of course, a third goal is to foster education and civics. It provides a portion of understanding of our societal privileges. As a board member, my goal is to align the district's priorities with the basic tenets of why we created public schools in the first place, to get all citizens educated in the basics that are helpful to existing within our society. But as my opponent said, I also believe we need to foster learning opportunities throughout the community. We need to connect these students to the community because they're going to be joining our community someday. And by doing internships and additional learning activities, they begin to connect with that community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are you guys hearing okay? No? No, I wondered. Okay. All right. So maybe adjust the mic a little bit.
But you can't move it to the side. It's gotta get closer.
Test, 1, 2, better, worse? Now? Yeah. Good. Rockstar?
A little Elvis Presley going on now. Can we just take it off? You can. You can take it off and hold it. I can give you mine. All right, we will now hear from candidate Mindy King in District 2. Do you want to?
No, can I take this one off?
I think we can keep it.
Maybe? Okay, does that work? Okay. All right, well, first I feel like we need to lead by example. Adults that surround students, including board members, need to model being just a good human who can respectfully disagree with each other and realize that their own way isn't the only way to think. We need to be humble and open to the thoughts and opinions of staff, community, and students. The district's strategic plan goes into greater detail, but there are action steps surrounding 4 targeted areas: preparing students for success, supporting the needs of students and staff, engagement in schools and school activities, and operational effectiveness. Our CTE programs at the secondary level need to be updated so that real-world learning and career exposure can take place. All students deserve to leave high school prepared for college and career. Finally, we need to empower students to think critically for themselves, ask questions, and seek answers from trusted sources. Public education is for all, and it should be free from any political ideologies. Teach them how to think and not what to think.
Thank you. Now our second candidate from district number 2, Ken Snyder.
That's unfortunate. All right, there we go. To better prepare students as citizens, we need to teach students how to do math. We need to teach them how to read and write. We also need to teach them how our government works and what our role is as citizens in the freest country in the world. Let's do that. That's good. We need to ensure that we have rigorous academics and high expectations. Not only will students learn the course material, but they will learn discipline, hard work, and a sense of accomplishment. Unfortunately, right now, not enough kids in Baldwin are feeling that sense of accomplishment. Only 43% of high school students are meeting the target in science, 28% in language arts, and 17% in math, based upon state assessment scores. We have to do better, and we need to expect more. However, once we get that solid foundation going, then we can focus on a career and technical education. Smaller districts, such as ours, has unique challenges in offering the depth and breadth of CTE pathways that many students are interested in. I'm excited in the new ones that are being added, especially with respect to ag science. And I'm also excited too for criminal justice and public safety as someone who was a volunteer deputy sheriff for 5 years. For more equipment-intensive options, we need to partner with Peasley Tech in South Lawrence. Buck and I had the opportunity to tour the facility. We were blown away with the opportunities they offer. They are welding, HVAC, plumbing, carpentry, electrician work, automotive, and many others. The equipment, instructors, and classrooms are there ready to go. We don't have anything to build. Oh, that's more done anyways. Thanks.
Always need more time, right? Thank you. All right, moving on to district number 3, candidate Beth Bradley.
Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So the school district should be able to have critical thinkers, to produce students that are critical thinkers, can solve complex problems. They're resilient, both mentally and physically resilient, and they're productive citizens. Unfortunately, 30% of our students here, or excuse me, 30% of students in the nation don't believe they're properly prepared for life after high school, regardless of their career, from a survey by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. About 60% of the students, according to the Department of Education, have to take some type of remedial class once they get to college. Now, what we need here is we need rigorous academics, and that's constantly evaluated in reading, writing, and arithmetic. If every student gets an A or B in that class, is it rigorous enough to go through there? We need to constantly go through this. The DOD is worried about this. Industry is worried about this. Major universities are worried about our students' ability post high school. We need to consider this. Not every kid needs to go to high school. We all kind of believe that. I went to the military right after high school. But if they have a strong foundation in reading, writing, and arithmetic, they'll be well prepared for that. CTE, Peasley Tech, those opportunities need to be leveraged here throughout the whole community. And also, we need internal and external feedback from our students and community leaders to see how we're doing with that.
All right. Candidate Lacey Coleman.
While there's always room for improvement, I think Baldwin does a great job preparing our students for the next step in life. Starting at the junior high level, they have a Career Connections program where different occupations come speak and answer questions about their career, ranging from physicians to real estate to law enforcement. The high school has also been working on developing additional and improving current CTE pathways. In the last few years, they have created a culinary program. Just this year, they have started a new ag program and started an Intro to Law and Safety public class with that official pathway starting next year. There are multiple AP and dual credit classes offered. And starting for the graduating class of 2028, all students will be required to take a financial literacy course that teaches everyday scenarios such as building a budget. I believe the emphasis should be to continue to grow our CTE programs and assist in career paths for those students who are not college bound. I would also like us to better utilize our Northern High School Initiative program that we currently do have with Neosho County Community College in Ottawa that would allow high school students to graduate with an associate degree at the same time as their high school diploma. This program is not officially being utilized currently due to transportation issues. This, along with growing our current CTE programs and adding more, is a great opportunity for the district to invest in our children.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move to the at-large candidates. First speaker is candidate Chad Heckheisen.
First of all, I agree with all the things that have been said so far in regards to needing career and technical, as far as needing possibly to be able to get your high school diploma and your associate's degree at the same time. I also believe that another way that you can encourage community involvement, and I've been a part of this when I was a principal at Wamego High School, we developed a peer chamber where the students were able to engage in the community as peers, as far as students in the high school, and then they were able to go out and participate in community service and things like that. One of the ways that I really believe that we need to start with in Baldwin is with the social emotional, and I know it's part of our strategic plan, is getting those counselors in the elementary schools and making sure that we get kids to be able to really be able to empathize with people, have that social awareness, be able to really engage and understand how other people are feeling, not only in a respectful manner, but in a way that they truly are welcoming to other people's viewpoints.
Thank you. All right. Candidate Brad Peterson from the at-large.
All right. So this has been a learning experience for me, as I've never run for public office, but it's something I've been wanting to do for some time now. When I was working on my Master's of Organizational Leadership here at Baker, we had a class where we talked about long-term goals, and one of mine was becoming a part of the school board. I've been a part of this community for 16 years, helping my kids in the rec department, serving on the church council, Methodist Church, and volunteering on many community events. Just as I'm learning more about this district, I think that we should continue to work on learning. I was talking to a prior superintendent, and he said the number one thing is learning. That's it. Everything else builds on that. So, are we just good test takers? Are we critical thinkers? And in my job now, I see young people who are new to the company, who are good at taking tests, but when it comes to critical thinking, problem solving, they are lacking in that skill. I believe more emphasis needs to be placed on critical thinking, problem solving, and that would help our students excel and stand out in the current job market. My other concern is communication. I see students on their phones out in public, not talking to each other, and that's concerning. I believe we have a new generations of students that are not going to be able to communicate effectively in the future, and that's really important to me. And I think as a community and as a parent, we can work together to make that happen. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. You made it through question number 1. All right, we will start question number 2. What is the best way to address differences of opinion on the board or between the board and the administration? So we'll start this question with the candidates from district number 2. Mindy King.
Can you hear me? Sorry, this is so awkward. Hold on.
People on the school board need to have a level of professionalism and respect for one another and the administration. They need the ability to critically think through issues, adhere to policies, ask questions, and voice their ideas and thoughts. Some of my best qualities as a candidate is my ability to work well with others, listen to other perspectives and rationales. I'm also not afraid to ask the hard questions in the name of what's best for students. From there, I can make my decision based on the district goals and critically think from those that closely align with the goals of the district. It's really about creating a culture of trust on the board where every voice is heard and considered. Even if we disagree, we have to respect the process.
Thank you. All right, candidate Kinsman.
The best way to address differences of opinion is through respectful but honest conversations that are transparent to the community. Often opinions are based on incorrect or incomplete information. Therefore, it is imperative that the board ask questions and discuss the topic at hand. It is important that everyone is on the same page when it comes to the facts. Once the facts are established, we can have a helpful discussion on the best path forward. Although it's not always possible to predict the outcomes of a particular decision, so this is where input from others, such as teachers, staff, parents, administrators, and taxpayers, is vital. What we can't have is the go along to get along mentality or just a rubber stamp. The school board deals with extremely important decisions that impact students, families, the community, and taxpayers. Thomas Jefferson said, "Truth is great and will prevail if left to herself, that she is the proper and sufficient antagonist to error and has nothing to fear from the conflict. Error is ceasing to be dangerous when it is permitted freely to contradict them." In other words, as a board, we need to determine what is true before making decisions. Stifling discussion or not having it in the first place will lead the district down the wrong path.
Thank you. District 3, Baldwin.
All right, nobody likes the polarizations going on at the national level whatsoever. Also, differences of opinions are not a bad thing. It prevents us from groupthink. In today's world, people focus too much on their differences. We need to start from a common ground and work from there. It is also important that we have open and honest communications. Understand the other side's perspective and reasoning for why they're getting there is vital to both sides of the party. Compromise will be needed when there is going to be differences out there. On top of that, both sides should sit there and feel like they won when they get done with the negotiation. If one side always feels like they lose or feels like they've got the short end of the stick, all it leads is to animosity and hatred feelings for the next time you go around for the next type of, where there's that next difference is going to be. Thanks.
I think the best way to address differences of opinion in any setting is through mutual respect, compromise, and genuinely listening to other viewpoints. As far as differences with staff or administration, we have the benefit of amazing educators in our district who have made educating our children their life's work. It would be foolish to not listen to their expertise. If I had a medical question, I would consult my physician. Why would this be any different? Between our 3 children, we have experienced in 29 different school years here in the Baldwin district, from pre-K to high school. I have full confidence that our educators are knowledgeable, trustworthy, and have our children's best interest in heart. As far as differences with board members, the board works as a unit. That is how it was designed. If elected, I am sure there will be times when my vote is not the majority vote. During those times, I will trust the vision of the board and the democratic process it was founded on. During my 20 years as a nurse, I never stopped asking questions because it made me a safer nurse. When you start to think that you have all of the answers and that your way is the only way, you close yourself off to learning and growing as a school board member and as a human. Thank you.
Thank you, Lacey. All right, at-large candidate Travis Beckheisen.
I think the number one thing here is that you have to have open communication that is respectful and non-confrontational. I think you do have to seek that common ground and be able to compromise in order to make sure we're moving together as a community and that we put some of our own agendas on the side. Transparency and accountability is probably the number one thing when it comes to some of these decisions being made, the actions or the plans that we're going to have moving forward. With that, you can hold each other accountable. You can make sure that the commitments that you have put forward are being accomplished, and the responsibilities that each and every person has in those commitments. I think when you are transparent and you're putting it out there with what you are doing and what the end goal is, you'll build that trust in the community and that mutual respect.
Thank you. Brad Peterson.
So it comes back to really listening, to understand the differences of opinions between people, including on a school board or between the board and administration. More often than not, there's a lot of opinions that we do agree on. We just don't see it as we're so focused on the opinions we have on a certain subject. I really try to see the good in people, but at the same time, I don't have blinders on, keeping me from seeing what is truly happening. I value relationships and people, and built long-lasting relationships with so many people in this community. But I will also not cave to pressure if I believe in something different from someone else. Again, I do think a lot of times there is a middle ground. I think fact-finding is important, not just opinions from a couple people, as too often we make judgments on missing information that can lead to challenges. I think being upfront, transparent with all involved is important as well. I think everyone, all the candidates, have certain talents that they can bring to the table. I believe mine, I'm a good listener and a thoughtful decision maker. And I think that would be beneficial to the school board. Thank you. Was this going down the whole time?
This isn't an omen, I promise.
I'm probably the shortest one here, so it's fine.
We just need to bring it back a little bit. All right. The mic is yours.
Thank you. Face-to-face communication is the best way to handle this. Working in human resources, there are always differences of opinion that arise at my job. Many issues cannot be resolved with a phone call, text message, or an email. When conflict arises, getting all parties together and having a conversation is the best option. Tone, expressions, and body language are all big parts of communication and can get lost in forms of written communication. When that happens, many things can get lost in translation, leading to any number of issues. For everyone to work effectively together to make USD348 and Baldwin a better community, we have to be able to talk and work things out together. Does this mean we always have to agree? No. But that is what makes working together so powerful. Jim Collins, author of the book Good to Great, states that leadership is about vision, but it is equally about creating a climate where the truth is heard and the brutal facts are confronted. Our district has a vision. Our board and our leadership have a vision. Some may not agree with that vision, but both sides need to listen to understand how we can make USD 348 better for staff, students, and the community. It's imperative that school board members remain neutral and moderate. Every single person in this community deserves to have their voice heard. Successes and concerns have to be given equal attention.
Thank you. All right, our last speaker on this question, candidate Michael Kennedy.
So over my adult life, I've served on an HOA board, chaired a preschool board, been on a scouting leadership board, and in my daily work, I serve and lead program and project teams in the research and development of new medicine. So I work with people with differences in opinion all the time. The two biggest things I've seen in stepping into an existing group or board is, one, stale groupthink and apathy to put the work in, and two, administrators who are accustomed to doing things one way and resistive or fearful to new ideas. I personally consider myself a creative thinker, and I've succeeded in these situations by providing fresh ideas and vision, and I think that's needed on USD 348. I'm a strong-willed person, but I'm also willing to learn and listen to others. I think it's okay to challenge people. Debate is healthy. There's always an opportunity to do better. I'm a scientist, and so I believe in data. If an idea is working, show me the data. If we have a new idea, how can we do something to show proof of concept that it is working? This is how I challenge people, how people challenge me, and how we work to build consensus and a path forward. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to question number 3 this afternoon. Jenny, how much more time does the audience have for questions? I have 15 more minutes, so if you have questions you want to submit to be asked to the board, make sure you're bringing them to the back of the room. All right, question number 3.
How does a school board balance the need to provide a quality education with the need to respond to the local taxpayer burden? We'll start this question with District Number 3 candidate, Baldwin.
It costs money, plain and simple, to run a school district. The Kansas Association of School Boards states keeping education accountable to the public is significant duty and responsibility of the school board. People need to believe the school district is a good steward of the taxpayers' dollars. The community needs to understand and believe their money is being well spent, and it starts with transparency. I've talked about 400 to 500 taxpayers over the last, 6 to 8 weeks, and there's a belief that there's issues with the transparency with the current school board. It takes back some of the current school board, has nothing to do with it, but issues with the past track, the bond, obviously the bond vote. People are wondering why the IC and PC weren't on the last bond. Budget and clearly defined goals spelled out and listed on a dashboard at the school district website, I think would help with this. An increased understanding and transparency, I believe, would result into more resources being available for the school district. If the community knows that the money is being spent well and they see results, they're more willing to vote for further bonds and improvements. Also, I believe a budget should increase. If there's need to increase the budget, it should be in line with inflation. I believe having a 10 to 15 year plan laid out for the community to understand and see that is defined by SMART goals is a way to help increase that transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Lacey Coleman.
I would like to start by finding ways to lower our community tax burden without taking funds away from our children. You may have heard us speak before on this, but the state of Kansas is not fully funding special education. If we were able to get the state of Kansas to fund special education as they are legally required, we could drop our budget by over 3 mils. It's also about striking a balance between our overtaxation and supporting our schools. We also must maintain realistic goals with improvements given the population and tax income of Baldwin. For example, we are a 4A school, and so is Ottawa, but Ottawa has 3 times the population. That puts Baldwin in a unique situation. Probably the question I've been asked most during my candidacy is specifically about the bond, my thoughts on that, and the new stadium. I believe the community has spoken and are not in favor of a stadium, but I think we now need to figure out what that balance is. Take a new stadium out of the equation. We still need some improvements for our facilities. The bid to add new lights to the practice field alone is over $400,000. My son plays junior high football. Recently, a parent from Eudora asked me where they could sit. She didn't know she was supposed to bring a long chair and that the small bleacher section would be full. Later, she asked me where the bathroom was. To be honest, I was embarrassed to direct her to a single porta potty. To sum it up, we need to find balance, somewhere between a new state-of-the-art facility and a single porta potty for hundreds of students, parents, and guests. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Shaka Kazan.
What I've seen through living in this community for the majority of my life, graduating from Baldwin school districts, and watching even my grandma struggle with the tax burden even when I was growing up, the number one thing is you have to be very transparent with your budgeting and communicate that to the public and make sure that you educate the community on the value and impact that they're going to receive from the money that they're giving to the schools. You have to prioritize that need, and whether it's now or it's in the future, it's in the past where we think it should have been done earlier or these things should have been done. We can't live in the past. And there's a great need in our community right now to improve facilities across the board. You have to build trust, and the way we build that trust is by regularly reporting on the budget, the execution of that budget, the program outcomes, and how taxpayer funds are being used to provide that quality education. And I think that we can do that. We're in a place where, from being an assistant principal in this district and seeing the things that were deferred or buildings that needed to be improved, but not having the money, and we had to keep pushing things, safety and security, and some of those other big-time projects that now had to take a back seat due to having budget cuts from the $667,000 that were taken from us. Those kind of things, we need to move forward and just be more transparent and honest with the public and build that trust back.
Candidate Brad Peterson.
So first off, listening to both are important pieces. I'm part of a men's Bible study where some are on a fixed income. And I know many others in the community are on fixed income as well. So I'm very conscious of that concern and understand we can't overburden them. But at the same time, these same friends support public education, so there must be a middle ground. From a personal perspective as well, I understand the concern with raising taxes or mills, as I'm a single income family, so changes in taxes does really affect me. I also understand the struggle with a higher cost of living, which also includes higher grocery bills, higher gas prices, etc. I understand that my house is probably valued more than what it's worth right now. But I don't think that's the school district's fault. I think that's a county issue. That's another hurdle to overcome to provide a solid education. I know that I'm probably going to have to make some concessions in my own spending, especially in things that I have control over, in order to pay for higher property taxes. So I'm very aware of the local taxpayer burden. Back to listening. I think from our last bond initiative, it was evident that not all felt value when it came to their opinion. That's both sides. I understand as well that every decision we make is going to come back 100% on either side. But I think we can work together to provide a valued education for our children. I know moving forward, more emphasis needs to be made to hear from the community, but also the community needs to take advantage of opportunities when they're presented to give their opinion in a constructive manner, which also includes myself. I'll finish with this. The schools in any community are the foundation. Time's up.
Thank you. Moving on to District Number 1, Jane Fox.
The number of students across the state meeting adequate scores in math, reading, and science have all decreased. The districts that performed best had the most highly qualified teachers. This led to students outperforming the state average as a whole. Teachers are what makes or breaks a district. Currently, Baldwin has the lowest base salary in the area and ranks 164th out of 279 schools in the state of Kansas. This makes it very challenging to hire and retain highly qualified teachers when they can drive to neighboring districts and make more money. We are lucky that many of our staff have ties to Baldwin and want to be here. How do we raise our base pay to attract highly qualified teachers, provide them with resources they need for the classroom, add highly qualified support staff without increasing taxes? I think the current board did a great job of that last school year by returning 2 mills to the taxpayers. One of my main talking points since I began my run for school board is special education. By law, the state of Kansas is to be funding special education at 92%. Currently, the SPED funding is at an all-time low of 69% and is expected to drop to 67% by the end of the year. When that happens, districts are required by law to make up that financial need. If the state fully funded SPED, the district could reallocate almost 4 mills however they would need to, including lowering taxes. Another way we can work to lower taxes is to start questioning the county on their property tax assessment. Douglas County currently has the second highest assessed value of any county in the state behind only Johnson County. The school board has a responsibility to the taxpayers in this district. However, they are not the bad guy here as some would lead you to believe. When you look at the big picture, they are the smallest and least able to fight back against someone when they choose to come after them.
Candidate Michael Kennedy.
I want a quality public education system, and I believe that if we work to build a great system here where the board, the administrators, the teachers, the parents, and the students are accountable to get the value out of every dollar, then the concerns over school choice and any future legislation around vouchers become relevant. But you can't drive quality without accountability, so we need accountability to drive that. Given the school board has the power of taxation, it's critical that the board has the utmost respect of the taxpayers. They are the biggest section of our community, and if you want to have community support, you need the taxpayer behind you. I want happy taxpayers. We can't unify our community towards contributing to go beyond their tax obligations to provide students mentoring and career development opportunities if we abuse them every September, demonstrate poor financial management skills, or fail to understand the laws that give us the power to tax. So we need to present a transparent plan of how we will make stepwise progress to prioritize our goals and tie to the expected budgets over a 5-year period. That would give everybody a clear idea of where the taxes are going over a period. The community needs to know that the elected members are looking out for their kids and their wallets. I certainly have advocated for the taxpayer over the last year. I'm glad to see their plight finally come to the forefront of this discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, our last two speakers on this question. Are you ready? Candidate Mindy King.
Inflation and major tax increases over the last several years has been a huge burden on the community. However, it's important to point out that like everyone else, the school district has felt this increase. Their budget, just like everyone else's, has been affected by inflation and increases. The price of everything is increased, including utilities, supplies, fuel for buses, and maintenance repairs, just to name a few. It is not just as simple as lowering taxes and operating on the same budget as 2 years ago. It's unrealistic, and quite frankly, it's inappropriate. I agree that taxes are too high, and that we need to address that at a county and state level, not the local level. Our students shouldn't have to go without and remain stagnant just because of issues there. If, as a board, we make a decision where taxes need to be raised, it would be essential that we be open and honest about what students need and why it is crucial to their success, with clear steps and reasons for the increase.
Thank you. All right, our last speaker, candidate Ken Snyder.
Communities need strong schools, and schools need strong communities. Oh, here we go. This is a reality we have to deal with. Therefore, we must learn to be resourceful and learn how to achieve great things without a large financial base. Additionally, we can't constantly blame Topeka for not giving us enough money. Let's take ownership of the situation. Let's develop a plan and strategize how we can stretch our dollars. At the revenue neutral hearing, it was heartbreaking hearing the frustration in the voices of seniors in our district who have worked and saved their whole lives and have paid in the school district longer than some of us have been alive. I firmly believe it doesn't have to be this way. We need to bring more transparency to the school board and how the money is spent so that people will be able to, and how we spend that money to educate the next generation. And we need to treat taxpayer dollars with respect and use their money effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. All right, we are moving on to question number 4 that we have prepared. What are your thoughts on the current and proposed budget for the school district? We will start this time with the candidates from district number 3. I'm sorry, the at-large candidates. Chad Eisen.
I think when we start talking about the current and proposed budget, it's always been a tough thing for schools because it's like a moving target as far as what we are going to get from Topeka. And the biggest thing there is you have to be fiscally responsible and build a budget that is both not efficient but effective. You have to try to be able to avoid those unnecessary expenses and prioritize those long-term financial sustainability. But the biggest thing is that schools across the state, every district that I've worked in for several years have been asked to do more with less. And we are continually getting less dollars, but yet everything else is continually to go up. So we have to be able to attract those teachers and other people into the district where we can still give a good education to our students. So with our proposed budget, we're going to have to continue to be creative. We're going to have to continue to try to get more with less, and I believe as a community we can do that.
Thank you. Candidate Brad Peterson. You could read your answers, that would be good.
Holding it this time. So I met with Mr. Dodge and Mr. Ullert, and we talked about the current budget, mill rates, and the capital outlay fund, and learning in the district, to name a few things. I found them both to be very open and very transparent about all that information. They truly have the best of intentions. I've sat through many budget meetings at my work when I was a supervisor for over 10 years. I've also been the finance chair for the last 5 years at the United Methodist Church here in town. In each of these budget processes, we would get input from all areas, including payroll, administration costs, building costs, so forth. So the budget, when I've looked at it from the school, is very similar in regards to these big picture items. We prioritize needs to a budget, and one of the concerns I have is the needs in the future for this school's budget. class sizes, competitive teacher salaries, and building improvements, to name a few. I think the current school board has done a great job in being good stewards of taxpayer money. I don't see any line items in the budget indicating they are overspending, and again, the money is being spent appropriately to educate our children. I will say this though, if ideas are presented to help the district in budgeting, funding, handling of reserves, no matter who submits them, I'm all ears and want to listen. I think everyone should have a voice when it comes to improving our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. District 1, candidate Jamie Cox.
The budget reflects the goals of the district after community feedback. The board looks at both how to relieve taxes and how to prioritize the needs of the district. After the board lost its tax appeal, they had to move things around to find ways to get things done that are a high priority. This will have to come out of capital outlay. All of this is reflected in the 5-year strategic plan. The board this year adopted a lower budget than was proposed. Everything surrounding the budget is all done in a public forum. Assuming we don't do anything new in the coming years to our school, the cost of maintaining what we have is more expensive than it's ever been. We do have to plan for things. The high school's running out of room. Our new agriculture program needs a greenhouse and a shop area. We need to address parking at the high school and the junior high. A fence needs to be put up in front of the junior high by the bus loop for safety reasons. We need security and required ADA upgrades to the buildings. It's not a wish list. These are things that the district actually needs. Some of the major things that stand out in the budget are the increases to special education and our food services. The only way to truly cut down a budget is to cut programs and staffing. I'd be interested to know what people think we should cut. Due to graduation requirements, we cannot cut educators at the high school. We would have to cut staffing at the elementary level. But that would lead to bigger class sizes. Do we want 30 to 35 kids in our elementary classrooms? Would we be able to retain those teachers if they had classes that size at the low rate we pay them? We could cut things like our security resource officer, coaches, music and theater programs, or our new ag program that so many people have fought for. But I think we have to ask ourselves, what do we want for our kids? How can we push for academic excellence while at the same time cutting the budget down to bare bones? Once the new board is in place, I recommend doing a thorough review of the budget.
Thank you. Candidate Michael Kennedy.
The overall school budget has increased 18% over the last 2 years, with no new building, no great increase in teachers or staff, and below historic enrollment. Even though I and others in our community have advocated for fiscal restraint in the past 2 budget cycles, the current board has continued to display what I call budget gluttony, using double-digit valuation increases to explode local property taxes through USD348 by 22.6% over that 2-year period. And that's after the input from Ken and Buck and I and others in the community finally allowed them to cut 2 mills off the overfunded bond and interest budget this year. The biggest issue is bond and interest reserve in the current budget. They stated budget expenses of $2.5 million for the past 3 years, but they're only paying out $1.5 million. They are hoarding current taxpayer money to make a future bond initiative look more palatable. That's abusing the taxpayer. That doesn't accomplish our prior question's goals. I would like to provide the taxpayers a pledge over the next 4 years if elected. I will vote on motions that work to pay down our bond and interest debt before we seek another bond improvement. I'll prioritize capital improvement projects to have the broadest impact on student outcomes. I'll work to identify private funding opportunities for advancing sports improvements goals and building up our ag sciences program. And I'll use my skill sets to scrutinize budgets, bids, and challenge the administration to demonstrate maintenance plans that preserve the life of our assets. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to District Number 2, candidate Mindy King.
Okay, I feel the current budget looks appropriate, taking into account individual building needs assessments for the current school year and future. It aligns with the strategic plan. It's tricky, but I feel like the current board has done a good job of balancing taxpayer and student needs. For example, the largest increase in the budget was under food services and special education. Those increases are self-explanatory. I know my cost of groceries in my household has gone up tremendously. For special education services, the blame for the constant increase lies for the state. They are required by law to fund special education at 92%, and they are currently funding it at 69%. How does the district make up for that increase? They have to take money out of the general fund to cover it. The capital outlay funds are being used for maintenance and upkeep on things that need to be fixed, and the simple fact of the matter is things just cost more. My question to others who want to see major budget cuts is, where would you cut money? Programs? Staffing? You cannot push for excellence in education while at the same time cutting all the things that make a school district function.
Thank you. All right, candidate Kim Snyder.
We will be spending $23.4 million in total, which equates to over $17,000 per pupil this year, paid for with local, state, and federal funding. By the way, $5.1 million of that is coming from the community. If elected to the school board, we will go through every line item in the budget in order to understand the details of each category. If an expenditure does not align with our goals as a district or provide significant contribution toward achieving our goals, I will propose the money be reallocated where it can be used more effectively or removed from the budget. Next year, I want to see multiple budgets proposed, including one that is revenue neutral. I do not accept the claim that we cannot educate kids without large increases in taxation year after year. Like Mike already mentioned, I'm concerned about the $4.2 million left in the fund for bonds and interest at the end of this fiscal year. What's the board's intention for keeping this money? These are taxpayer dollars and should be used to either pay down our debt or taken into account when setting bond and interest mill levy for next year.
Thank you. Our last two speakers on the question from District 3, candidate Beth Bradley.
There needs to be more transparency in the process. The budget documents up on the school district is 198 pages. Capital improvements, there's $2.4 million in there. I do not know, and we're going through all those documents, I do not know how much we're spending on CTE, learning tools, fuel, etc. Our dollars on the budget should trace back to our action items that are in our strategic plan that should be written as SMART goals so we know what that money is going for. Our action items currently are too weak to make sure they are defined in or too weak and not well defined in our strategic goals to make sure every dollar is being properly well spent. And furthermore, budget increases should be in line with inflation. We should not, if a normal taxpayer has got to suffer because of inflation, the school board should make some cuts and stuff as well. I'd like to see the budget be based off zero-based budgeting, which basically means you start out, nobody gets an increase until you can justify that increase. That doesn't mean there's not increases. It means it needs to be justified every year, not an automatic, you get an 8% raise or an 8% raise or improvement in that particular program. Again, I do have an issue, like Mike said, about the bond and interest payments, why we're over collecting on those. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker today on this question, candidate Lacey Baldwin.
I have attended budget meetings and studied the budget myself, and it is my honest opinion that the narrative that the school budget has excessive waste is just simply not true. Has there been increases? Yes. We've also added a second breakfast option for students in the school that now comes, we now fund that. And we had added an agricultural program, which is in need of a greenhouse. Next year, we're adding a public safety program. Good things are happening in Baldwin, but we must continue to invest in them. My, question to those that think they need to cut the budget, I ask, where are you going to cut it? Like some other candidates mentioned, usually they're cut at staffing or with programs. We can't do either. There's been an inverse, multiple studies that show an inverse outcomes for elementary classes that are increased sizes. We could also cut funding for athletics, but multiple studies have shown that the greatest indicator of graduation rates at secondary and post-secondary levels are among student athletes. As a taxpayer myself, I of course would love to have lower taxes, but I would never want to do that at the expense of the children's education. I would also encourage everyone that is interested to look at the school budget themselves. It's all available on the USD website.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our last question. Question number 5. How can a school board know if its goals are being accomplished and its policies are being implemented? We're going to go back to district number 1. We'll start with the session, so Jamie Cox.
Board members need to be seen in all of our 4 buildings. When I've gone into the schools and talked with staff about what they need and want from board members, the main thing they all say is they wish the school board was more present in the buildings. They feel like the board is setting expectations, but not really paying attention to what's going on. That has to change. As a board member within your own job and career going on, you have to take time to get to know the people who are working for and with you. If you're going to set policy and expectations and then never check on how those are being implemented, or if they're working or not, then you don't really have a right to be upset if they aren't. This is a practice I follow in my own career. I would recommend our school board implement reflective practices to see what we did, why we did it, was it successful, what could have been done better, and would we change anything for the future? Visiting with the teachers, support staff, and administrators to see how things are going and what we can do differently is a vital component of an effectively run school district.
Thank you. Candidate Michael Kennedy.
Thanks. Before answering this question, I just want to say that food services are not funded by local levies. They're primarily funded by federal dollars and are self-sustaining through the purchase of lunches. The current board really struggles with demonstrating that goals are being accomplished. Their strategic vision has 4 pages of action steps with no prioritization, describe timing for implementation, or measure of success. And because of that, I'm not seeing enough check-in throughout the year to determine what's being accomplished and where it's not. So if I'm elected, it starts with a strategic plan that is focused on prioritized. We need to delineation in 1, 3, 5, and 10-year objectives. It's okay to have 4 pages of objectives tucked away somewhere, but how does anyone know what to work on when they show up Monday morning if there is not prioritization? How do you know what to prioritize your staff and taxpayer resources on? So we prioritize on a time basis, and then we develop a limited number of SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound for each year. Some goals may take multiple years to accomplish, but every year needs to have a measurable and achievable action toward an endpoint that can be evaluated at the end of the year. And again, this flows down to budget priorities and the need that to be made each year to budget, to fund. So it flows down to all the steps you will take in the course of the year to advance your goal. It defines how you will get there. You then follow up with periodic, at least quarterly discussions of where you are on your yearly goals. Measurable and achievable is critical. You must believe in data and the target and constantly evaluate. Thank you.
Thank you. District number 2, candidate Mindy King.
For policies and goals being met, there's a standard of accountability in place by board members. Every action the board takes, financial, resource allocation, and response to an issue all ties within the district vision and strategic plan. The administrative team at our schools and district office gives the school board updates and rationales for every decision that gets made. It's important to note that the strategic plan that I keep referring to was made with community member, teacher, and family input through surveys and focus groups. This plan wasn't made by board members and the superintendent alone. Anyone in USD348 could voice their thoughts and opinions for the district and the direction it would take. Finally, as a board member, I would hold high expectations of myself, other people on the board, administration, staff, and students.
Can I just compliment you all on your time management? It's been fabulous so far. All right, candidate Ken Snyder. If I changed you all, I just am really sorry for that.
Let's see here. Every goal must have some kind of feedback loop that provides data. Feedback may be quantitative, such as standardized test scores, or may be qualitative, such as parent or community input. We especially need open and honest feedback directly from the teachers because they are on the front lines of educating students. The board needs to know what is working and what is not working. They need to know what is getting in the way of education and what policies could improve educational performance. Long-term and short-term goals must be developed, prioritized, and have the necessary resources allocated to them. If not, we flounder as a district. For example, the building needs assessment is a form submitted by the school board to the Kansas Department of Education every year. The assessment is performed for each building, covering basic topics such as students, staff, families, curriculum, and facilities. One question on the form is there adequate space for learning? For the PC and IC, the response was no for the past 2 years. If this is accurate, Why was the bond presented to the public back in May void of any building expansion for the PC or IC? How was this missed during the pre-bond planning phase? I can't answer these questions. However, if I'm elected to the board, I'll make sure we have prioritized goals and align funding to achieve these goals so that we can improve the educational experience while respecting the taxpayer of this district.
Thank you. District 3, candidate Bob Bradley.
I'll touch on this again. It goes down to SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. It is a school board's report card, and it's widely used around the industry or in the corporate world, military, and all around the world. We said we do X by Y, and here's how we did. For example, one of the 5 strategic goals is preparing students for success. No issue with that strategic goal. However, in the action steps, one of the action steps in there is implement additional ACT preparation and/or tutoring opportunities for the students. I have a huge issue with this. This was not written as a SMART goal. How do we hold anybody accountable to this? It should have been written somewhere along these means. Increase additional ACT preparation and/or tutoring to ensure that at least 75% of students, or 75% of juniors and seniors, have access by the beginning of 2025 to improve our average test score by 1% from the 2002 ACT test score. If all our action step goals in our strategic plan are written as SMART goals, we will increase transparency within the district. It is our report card. I can use that goal and tell you, are we doing good? Are we doing bad? And if we need to increase or decrease funding to that particular program. Currently, the way that one goal is written right there, increase ACT prep, one course checks that off for the strategic goal. So again, back to SMART goals is how we get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Lacey Cullinan.
The board votes on a vision and a strategic plan, 4-year plan, with 4 target areas of focus. This plan was developed with data collection and input from parents, teachers, and students. Each month, the school board's agenda is focused on these 4 target areas. This is measured each month by a report from each director with their updated information, data, and goals to the board. This includes the tech director, the maintenance director, director of food services, etc. The principals and vice principals of each school also create a report each month and report back to the board. The district also has a goal to have 90% of student graduates completing a CTE certification or achieving 6 college credits by 2027 reporting year. Currently, the primary center and intermediate center are working on their own goals that are applicable to their student populations. They may not have used the buzzword SMART goals, but I do believe that the current board is using goals that's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our last 2 speakers on this question from the at-large, Chad Burkheisen.
So I think we've pretty much came to a conclusion that we need to have clear goals and that they have to be measurable, they have to be achievable, they have to be relevant, and they have to be time-bound. But with all that being said, what you got to have to back those up are key performance indicators so that you know step by step whether or not you are meeting those goals. If you don't know if you're meeting them week 2, well, then you need to pivot. So with that being said, you have to continually review the data, and then you have to have accountability meetings to make sure that whoever the point person is for certain things, that things are getting done. And then that's how we're going to continually move the district and the learning for all kids forward.
Thank you. All right, our last speaker, candidate Brad Peterson.
First off, I think you talked to the teachers. In my opinion, they're the most important piece of this whole learning process. No offense to all the other employees, as I think they're very important as well, but the teachers are the front lines, and they have the pulse of what is happening day to day. They're the ones speaking with students, parents, and seeing how they are learning. My kids have been blessed with wonderful teachers throughout the years. I was visiting with a teacher from another school district the other day, and that person said they don't feel like they are being heard and valued, and more responsibilities are being placed on them. I understand we are losing wonderful teachers due to our current learning environment, and that really is terrifying to me as a parent of school-age children. I worry about future generations as well. If elected to the board, I would make it a priority to talk to the teachers. I've always believed in attending parent-teacher conferences and have met with teachers for my kids for all grade levels. Secondly, I believe a school board has to have a good working relationship with the superintendent's office. and where we'd hold each other accountable to making sure policies are being implemented. There has to be ownership of successes and failures. There's been some talk about student test scores, and I've looked on the Kansas Department of Education site where performance levels are provided. On this site, and with any other data site you can make, the numbers fit your opinion. But in general, I think the Baldwin City School District is doing great with performance levels. Can we do better? Absolutely. And that's where we get back to holding each other accountable for our successes and failures. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that is the end of our questions, round one. Now we'll move into we're gonna take a break now for 10 minutes. So meet back here shortly. We'll give everyone a chance to get something to drink, stretch their legs, maybe breathe deeply, candidates, if you haven't been in the last hour or so. We'll see you back here.
Does anybody know how KU did? Does anybody know how KU did?
They were up when I left.
Josh, KU score?
You heard his name.
Brother, have the mic?
No, I could.
No, it's all good there?
It was on that side. I turned.
It's right here.
All right, thank you everyone for coming back promptly. We are now ready to start round number 2. Just as a reminder, these are questions that were sourced from you. What happened is the wonderful team of Jenny and Jeanette actually ranked them according to how many times that question was asked or something very similar was asked. So the first question that we are going to start with from the audience is around safety. It was the most frequently asked question. So children must feel safe before they can learn. How will you ensure, as a potential school board member, that USD348 is a place all students feel safe, both physically and socially, regardless of race, regardless of sexual orientation or gender expression? How will all children feel they belong? So, Jeff, if you set a timer for about a minute, we'll let the first speaker think about this question as well as all the candidates. So, can you repeat it again? Yeah. Children must feel safe before they can learn. How will you, as a USD 348 school board member, ensure that our district is a place all students can feel safe physically and socially, regardless of their race, their sexual orientation, or gender expression? How will all children feel they belong here? Playing game show music or something to be playing around. I will not sing for you all because that would not be good, so that was not in the talent search requirements. All right, we will start with the candidates from district number 2 for this question. We're also going to be reversing the order, so we will start with candidate Ken Snyder. Thanks for leading off. You got the tough job this time. Thank you.
Sure. All right, for safety, as a former law enforcement officer, I think about safety a lot. And one of the first things I do when you think worst case scenario, would like to have especially all new officers from Baldwin City PD and also from the Sheriff's Office come through, tour all the facilities, all the school buildings, go through, offer up training opportunities for them in the summer so that in worst case scenario, that any responding officer or deputy will know exactly where they need to go and the layout of the building. Also like to focus on the walkway. That was something that came up during the bond. And I think, we can make that, maybe a little cost efficient, but I do believe that it's very important to have that enclosed walkway between the junior high and senior high. I found with bullying, it's another important topic. We already, bullying is defined by state statute. We already have policies in place. I just want to make sure that are the policies being enforced across the board? Are there times where it's not being enforced? If not, we need to figure out and find root causes why that's happening and make sure that all kids feel safe so they can learn. Thanks.
How's the mic? You guys can hear these important responses? Yeah?
Okay, so for the start of making all students feel safe and accepted, it starts with some of the social, emotional learning that goes on in the schools, starting with they take the SABRS assessment, where parents do have to opt in for them to do it, but it gives staff baseline data to see how their students are doing, and it will flag any students that need possible interventions or have specific needs like mental health, things like that. We also have partners with Burt Nash and RAP workers that can help students with those specific needs. We need to foster a climate of acceptance for all students by modeling that as adults ourselves. And finally, I want to make it very clear that every student that walks through the school door deserves to be loved, safe, and warm, and learn regardless of anything else.
I will start with physical safety. One of the most disappointing things for me when the bond didn't pass was that covered walkway, like Ken had mentioned, in between the middle school and the high school. Currently, there are several classes where students need to pass back and forth. Sometimes either that door's unlocked during hours, or they're having to be unlocked, and it's just kind of a hassle, along with there was someone that did get, unfortunately, into the school at the beginning of the school day last year, about a year ago. So the safety for me is a big issue. We do have one very wonderful school resource officer. My goal, I would love to see two. I would love to have one on each campus, one for middle school, or junior high and high school, and then one for the two elementary schools. As far as being inclusive, we are talking about children here, and every single child deserves to be respected and cared for and have a situation in an environment where they can learn at their best. And also, to speak to something Ken mentioned as well, my husband is the captain of patrol for the Douglas County Sheriff's Department, and they have toured the schools. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. No problem. You guys psyched me up, and you're testing my location.
All right, safety is very important. It starts with getting to school. One of the biggest concerns we probably have here in the school district is Highway 56. Kids got to cross that every single day. We need to look at that. We need to find a permanent solution. I'm glad the local police chief helps pay for the school board crossings, but that's only a temporary solution. How do we get permanently that fixed? Can we transport the IC and PC kids to the middle school so they don't have to cross that as we go through? Physical security, I've met with the police chief. I understand there's a resource officer. I understand the sheriff's department, the police department regularly make walks through the schools. In addition, I know the new principal down there at the PC made some changes for safety this year, and I approve that, and that should go all the way through. Then we'll get back to bullying. It's always going to be an issue when you talk about young kids. We need to make sure our policy is consistent throughout the district, which I believe it is, but it needs to be perceived by the community as consistent. We need to rely on the experts to help shape and correct our approaches as we go through there. Do we need to form a small committee or to address some public concerns when it comes to that? That does seem to be a topic that does pop up quite a bit. So, yeah, we need to do a small committee to make sure we're addressing that correctly. Thank you.
Okay. All right, do you guys want me to read the question one more time, or is it firmly in everyone's mind? Chad is itching to answer this question.
All right, so first for school safety when it comes to physical safety, I first want to commend the Baldwin City Police Department and School Resource Officer for the incident that happened a while back. They were on the facility really quick when this incident happened. Second, I want to talk about mental health. So Mindy brought up the Burt Nash Resource Center, which I think is probably the most valuable thing we can have for mental health for our students. We have all sorts of students in this district. People are learning to figure out how to be in this environment we have now. People have to learn to adjust. And I think that as a school board member, we have to know how to help these children, feel safe in whatever environment we put them in. So I would say that for us as a school board member, for any of us, that should be our number one goal, obviously, is school safety when it comes to mental and, Chad's got me again, mental and physical safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Okay, Chad. Candidate Chad Beckheisen can now approach the mic.
All right, yeah, so as far as the number one thing I think is that it's not just physical safety, that we have to focus on the emotional needs of our students. And I think we can do that once we get the counselors put in place at the elementaries and make sure that that curriculum's being implemented with fidelity. When it comes to the physical safety, through my 27 years in education and being an administrator, I've sat on different teams to build safety plans, comprehensive safety plans in districts that included both city, county, and every other official when it comes to the plans moving forward. That could be having the district radios that link with the officers, the things that we don't have quite yet, better camera systems that also the dispatch could have awareness of what's going on around our schools. Where is our rally point? Some of the bigger comprehensive plans that I just haven't quite seen in Baldwin. But when it comes to things that don't cost money, we do have people, and having supervision schedules and things like that, to where we put people in places so that they know when potential threats are coming up. Sorry.
Are we getting a minute or a minute and a half?
That's what that seems.
Are we a minute or a minute?
We're a minute now.
Oh, we're a minute? Oh, okay, thank you. I was like, I only saw it. Okay, got it. I was okay.
All right, moving into District Number 1, candidate Michael Kennedy.
Okay, I think that a lot of people have covered this already, but, on improvements, I think it was unfortunate around the time of the bond. I proposed an AB bond, A part being focused on education and school safety, and B on sports. I recommended that to the board president in December. They decided not to take us up on that and go that route, so that's unfortunate. During fighting of the bond, I proposed for the passage between the two schools, that we consider an architectural safety fence or a safety wall instead of building a building between that, in order for us to secure that safety area. I agree that bullying, it needs to be looked at carefully. We need to make sure that the policy is applied. I know there's a lot of kids who don't feel safe at school or bullied and are being forced out of the district, and that's just a terrible thing. Transportation, I think, is also an issue. We need to make sure we can get the kids to school safely. That could be an issue that trickles down to chronic absenteeism. So, we need to find a solution to get kids safely across 56 Highway. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, candidate Jamie Cox.
First, to address the physical safety, I know several people have already said this, but I do think that enclosing the breezeway needs to be a top priority of the district, and that was one thing with the bond I was really disappointed that didn't pass, so that we could get that done as soon as possible. There are so many kids going back and forth between the junior high. There's high school kids that come to the junior high for classes. There's junior high kids that go to the high school classes, and they're in and out all day, and it's just impossible for that to be monitored on a basis. And I, for one, I'm not willing to wait for something to happen before we put safety and security in place for our kids. As far as social, emotional, and that kind of safety and security for kids, I have the unique perspective of being married to an educator. In the 20 years he's been at this, he's had a lot of students that were part of the LGBTQ community. The one thing I've always wanted, that they've always wanted, was for somebody to believe in them as people. As a board member, I would do the same. I think Baldwin currently does a very good job with anyone that's in this community, including having several organizations at the high school for them. Each building principal and staff works to accommodate them in any manner they need, as well as working to protect them. As a member of the board, I would continue to allow any policy that's currently in place to continue to be so. Thanks.
Sure. That was round one, right?
Can I ask Jeff a question? Is he holding up the card at what point in time now?
30 seconds.
That's what I wanted to know. Yeah.
Any clarifying question? All right. The second most popular question from the audience today is, we have been hearing a lot about transparency from all of you. But let's dig a little bit deeper. What specific plans do you have to increase transparency? I'll say it again. We keep hearing about transparency from many of you, or from all of you at some point. What specific plans do you have to increase transparency? So we'll give everyone about a minute here to collect their thoughts. So Lacey, are you ready? You're the first one up.
As I ever will be. I personally do not have any issue with the current transparency in the current board. I have yet to have a question or idea or anything that I asked for that wasn't given to me. If we need to have a more detailed budget, line item like some of the candidates had mentioned, I would definitely be open to that. I do think transparency is important, but I also think that the current board does a really good job at it. So they allow candidates and community members to come speak at the board meetings. I really haven't seen them doing anything that wasn't transparent, but that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidate Bradley?
I'd like to see a district dashboard put on the district website that shows all our internal kind of goals and stuff tracked, so anybody can go to one page on the website, on the district website, and find out what's going on. I'd love to see a 10 to 15-year plan spelled out for the community that would talk about roughly what we have planned, whether it be sports facilities, academics, building improvements, new schools, new facilities, and then when potentially we can possibly look at a new bond. Action items. I'd like to see all the action items that are currently in the strategic goals. I like to see those written as SMART goals all the way through, up and down. I'd like to also change the school board to allow public comments to come in after each particular topic. Right now, only public comments are allowed at the beginning of the school board, at the beginning of the session. I'd like to after every single topic, very much like the city or the county does. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to the at-large candidates. Candidate Brad Peterson.
All right, so when it comes to transparency, I'll be very transparent. So what you see is what you get with me. So I'm not the best public speaker. It's been pretty apparent tonight, right? But I do love this community. I love the people in this community. I would do what's best for the children in this community. So when it comes to the current school board, I think they've done a great job. I believe that they've done a great job. I know there's been other comments tonight that they didn't or haven't, but I do believe they've done a great job. So when it comes to me, what you see is what you get. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Candidate Chadwick Kaiser.
I think there are several things that are voted on back in executive session that can be more transparent to the public as far as certain staffing things. We can't specifically talk on individual employment things, but we can talk and be more open when it comes to certain budgetary issues and other things when it comes to rubber stamping certain action items just to get the meeting to be a little faster. So I think that that's one thing that when you'd have to really dig through those board docs in order to know exactly everything that was passed on some of those action items.
Thank you. Moving to the candidates in District 1, candidate Michael Kennedy.
Okay, so again, I think it comes back first to SMART goals. We need to have defined goals so people know what we're going for, and periodic check-in on those goals need to occur in the public forum, in the public meetings. We need more engagement in the public meetings. Board-to-board discussion needs to be more lively. It needs to be more thorough. We can't hide behind expressing differences in opinion. We should welcome that discussion. We also, as Buck said, need to have better board-to-public commentary, other opportunities. We need budget breakdown. We need the general and supplemental budget to show better what the expense flows, what's flowing to what. It's very, very difficult to decode where money is going for the person looking at the documents that are on there. Bond and interest is easy. Capital is relatively easy. Supplemental and general, difficult to break down. We need long-term planning, 1, 3, 5, and 10-year objectives that people can understand. We need board-to-teacher engagement. I would love to talk to teachers about their ideas, love to see where we can find common ground, love to see how we can get students to the next level. Thanks.
All right, candidate Jamie Cox.
So I have to be completely honest, I'm actually not a fan of the word transparency. I think it's become a hot button political term that has become a passive aggressive way of accusing people that you don't agree with. So I'm actually not a big fan of the word transparency. But if we're going to talk about it, I do want to point out that I feel that the current board has been very transparent with everything. I was at the R&R and budget meetings. They provided these huge packets of information to anybody that came to the meeting. That information was fully laid out. The budget showed last year, actually I believe it showed the last 3 years compared to what the proposed budget was, and it went line item by line item. I had meetings with both the superintendent and administrators, and I felt that they were very open and transparent with me in every single question that I asked. I'm open to ideas from the public on how to get information out to community members that don't have internet access, because all of this information is available on the district website. But if there are community members that don't have internet access, I would be interested to hear ideas on how to get that to them. Is that my end? Okay, thank you.
All right, moving to district number 2, Kim Snyder.
All right, since the main vehicle communication is through the school board meetings, I have several suggestions. One, I want to see packet material with attachments before the board meeting. So specifically, there was an example of where a school bus bid. They had 3 bids. We picked the highest one. It wasn't even really clear. I think it had security cameras or something. I don't know. We don't really know, but they took the most expensive one. For transparency, it'd be helpful to know why. Also, there's times when there's an example of motion to adopt resolutions from KASB and their policies. No idea what they were. It was just a straight up and down vote. I was able to go to another school district and see what the KASB recommended policies were for that year to find out that information. Also, additionally, as mentioned, I'd like to see more details with respect to finances. For example, what do we spend on software licensing this year in the school district? I know it's a lot because my kids talk about all these different apps they use. And then also, what are we spending on hardware for computers? Something simple, how much do we spend on fuel for transportation costs? What are we spending annually for maintenance? Just things like that would be helpful to know when planning, budgeting, and understand what's happening inside the district.
Thank you. Candidate Mindy King.
Oh dear, hold on.
Okay, well, I don't personally see an issue with the board being transparent. The meeting is live streamed. You can go back and watch it later. There are minutes available. The meeting is open to the public, so you can come. They hand out packets with the information. And if you have a question about any of that stuff, you just need to approach a board member, approach the superintendent via email, and they will be happy to answer your questions. I'm sure of that. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, moving on to question number 3 here in this round. Your at-large candidates, you'll be the first ones up here. So the question is, prior to declaring your candidacy, how have you invested your time and expertise with helping and advocating for our students, our teachers, our staff, and our administrators? So again, prior to declaring your candidacy, how have you invested your time and your expertise with helping and advocating for students, teachers, staff, and administrators? Audience, you guys did a really good job with these questions. Are you ready? All right. Candidate Brad Peterson will lead us off this round.
we've talked before. So I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. We've lived here for 16 years. Been involved in the Baldwin Rec Department for multiple years, Baldwin Academy of Dance and Voice. We've been involved in the local church. So I think that's how I relate to this community. I see it from that perspective. I see it from the kids' perspective and the community's perspective. So what I've done to help the teachers, staff, students is more from a community perspective. I attend the high school activities, I attend the junior high activities. I see what's going on in the schools, and I support the local businesses as well. So those are things that are really important to me and something I'd hopefully continue as a school board member. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, candidate Chad Brookhuizen.
I also have a senior and a freshman currently in the school district, and when it comes to advocating for our students and our staff and everybody involved, is that I very rarely am opposed to talking to people, and I will let everybody and anybody know how passionate I am about education and what the challenges are in front of us on a daily basis and what we need. As far as what I am willing to do is I'm willing to give my time. I'm there, I'm visible, and I will do whatever it takes to help those teachers. And as a family, when parent-teacher conferences or any of those things come up, we help provide the food, or we'll give where we need to give, and we're not opposed to that. And anything that we can do to help those teachers feel a little bit more appreciated is what we're going to do.
Thank you. All right, moving to candidates in District Number 1, candidate Michael Kennedy.
So I moved here 4 years ago. Kids were in junior high and entering high school. So they're out of league sports, or rec sports. 6 months after we moved here, COVID hit. So getting kids accustomed to living in a new state, away from all their friends, and then going through COVID, my priorities were as a parent to get my kids stabilized. And I'm fortunate that I have great kids, and they did get stabilized here in Baldwin. And we love the community for that, and how they adopted our kids into the school system. Coming out of COVID, I was here multiple times pleading with this school board to get these kids back in school, because I saw what it was doing to kids, to my kids, to other kids, about their lack of social interaction and their depleted education. So that's where I started my involvement prior to my candidacy. And yes, fighting for good tax policy, good budgets is to try to get kids to the next level here at Baldwin. It is to try to spend money more smartly, to be invested in our education in the right ways. So generally, again, being here a short time in the community, I've tried to do what I can as a parent, and through the years that we've had here. Thanks.
Candidate Jamie Cox.
We moved here almost 10 years ago from Gardner, and the reason we chose Baldwin was for the schools. And so we immediately made the decision that it was important for us to be invested in the community. Right after we moved here, I got myself involved with the PTO at the elementary level, and I served on the PTO for the elementary for 8 years. And in the last couple years, I've transitioned over to serving on the site councils for both the junior high and the high school. I've spent many hours working in classrooms, helping with sight words, helping teachers with different projects that they needed help with. Locally, I also serve on the Friends of Baldwin Academy of Dance and Voice board. We volunteer at many community events. We shop local, we donate local. And we're also involved in things like scouts and rec sports. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, District Number 2, candidate Ken Snyder.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to be a stay-at-home dad for about 5 years, and during that time, my kids are still they're in fourth grade right now, but had a chance to, as they were going up through pre-K and kindergarten, to be part of their classroom parties, class plays, and then also with Bullpup Stroll. In addition to that, we're heavily involved in rec sports. So that's it. Very quick and short.
Thank you. Candidate Lindy King.
I've lived in Baldwin my entire life, and I even see some of my former teachers in the audience, which is really cool. I have participated and volunteered in many events here and school functions. My kids are still elementary age and below, but they are involved in rec activities where I coach volleyball, my husband coaches baseball. We love mentoring and coaching the youth in the community that we love so much.
All right, candidates in district number 3, are you ready?
My husband and I have 3 kids. They are 13, 14, and 15. They were born in Baldwin. They've been raised here their whole life. When they went to Rainbow Preschool, I was on the board at the preschool. I was co-chair of their silent auction event to fundraise for the preschool. My husband and I have coached many rec teams, volleyball, softball. I leave the football to him. Usually food is my love language, so I'm often found smoking a pork butt for a team dinner, or most recently brought breakfast to the FCA group. With our 3 kids, they're very active, and there's not a night that goes by that we're not at a school event or fundraiser or band concert or something, so thank you.
All right.
All right, spent 21 years in the Marine Corps. I have 3 students here, or 3 kids are here, a 4th grader, 7th grader, and a sophomore. Over that time, I've coached over 10 years of youth sports, from baseball, wrestling, softball, etc., including in Baldwin. One of my nonprofits, I'm on 3 nonprofits boards. One of my nonprofits is Franklin County Honors. We're working to have the school visit. It does the Veterans Day Parade down in Ottawa. Right now, we're looking at having the USD348 having their visit to the city park to understand the sacrifices veterans make. I've also spoken to KC Prep, speaker up in Kansas City. While I was in North Carolina, I spoke at many youth events for beekeeping. Some of you know or may know I'm a beekeeper. STEM course, I ran a STEM course for the Marine Corps for the Oceanside schools around the Oceanside area. I ran a week-long STEM course for that. I've also helped provide food and supplies for various clubs in Baldwin, and I've also helped chaperone events when able. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to question number 4, candidates. We're going to talk about sports. So specifically, some of the questions that are on the audience's mind is supporting the use or using tax money to support interscholastic sports. How do you feel about that? And why? We'll give our candidates in district number 1, which is where we're going to start. I will give them a minute or 2. Gather their thoughts. Absolutely. I'll be more specific this time. I'll be more transparent. Do you support the use of tax money to fund interscholastic sports? Why or why not? I didn't say. That's an interesting twist on the question, John. All right, when you're ready, Michael Kennedy will lead us off about sports and funding.
I don't have a problem with spending tax dollars on sports. I just think we need to have limitations on that. Did you know that the Lawrence football stadiums were built with private funding? How about the Tonganoxie turf was paid for by private funding and fundraising? So we need good public-private partnerships to help build our facilities. If we're going to spend money on sports, we need to recognize the size of our community, that every sport you add pulls kids away from other sports. So let's try to do some things really well. Let's make sure we have good coaches. What does a kid need in sports? They need an opportunity to play, and they need good coaching. And that will teach many of the great lessons in life that they have. I think our soccer team has showed that they can compete on any field, and I think that's wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you. Jimmy Cox.
I absolutely 100% supporting not just sports, but all extracurricular activities with tax dollars. It's proven time and time again, and research shows time and time again what sports and extracurriculars can help do to build student character, leadership abilities, and teamwork. And I think all that's incredibly important for our students to have as they move into adulthood and into their careers. And it's also proven through data that student athletes have higher graduation rates than non-student athletes. I think that's it. Thanks.
Moving to our candidates in district number 2, Ken Snyder.
So I don't see anything wrong with using tax dollars to support school sports, but like Mike mentioned, we have to look at the big picture, take a holistic approach to it. And first of all, the main purpose of schools is to provide education, but sports is also an important part of that as far as providing life skills and discipline in students. But I also see too, because when I ran track and cross country in high school, I thought, well, everything should just be given to you. But now I kind of see, now as a taxpayer and I see budgets, I kind of understand. And also I feel like too, it's important for kids to feel a sense of ownership. So if they work to provide some of the money for uniforms or equipment, then I think that it also builds some additional character for them as well.
Thank you. Candidate Mindy King.
I support sports and also other extracurricular activities being funded by the schools. The things that you learn in sports and extracurricular activities just can't be learned in the classroom. Teamwork, grit, all those things. You can't rely on the public to fundraise for those things. A GoFundMe or a big sale is not going to pay for sports in the school. And to clear up something, as a wife of somebody who has somebody working in sports in school, they do a lot of fundraising on their own to pay for their own things.
Thank you. All right, moving on to district number 3, Lacey Kellerman.
Don't let my height fool you. I was not an athlete growing up, but I want to use my son as an example. My 13-year-old Ridge, he is a 4.0 student. He is secretary of the student council for the junior high. He's in advanced math class. Yet when I ask him how his day was, every day he answers me about practice. That's all I hear about. I really do think it's vital for kids, for their emotional safety, for emotional growth, for their physical growth. It's life lessons, and I do think it's really, really important to fund athletics in school. And as Jamie mentioned, the highest graduation rates for secondary and post-secondary students are among student athletes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Candidate Buck Bradley.
100% yes, I support taxpayers, money being used to support sports. Anecdotal story, sports provide a valuable lesson that can't be taught in the classroom. Anecdotal story in the Marine, like I said, I did 21 years in the Marine Corps. I swear my Marines that wrestled were my best Marines. Don't ask me why. Maybe I was biased because I wrestled for 12 years myself, but it teaches valuable lessons. However, that being said, I'm a firm believer that Baldwin needs its own stadium. However, I believe that we have some other stuff, at least education-wise, that needs to be funded first, whether it be the IC, PC, some of the security issues and stuff of that nature. It needs to be funded first before a stadium. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our at-large candidates. Candidate Brad Pearson.
I also agree that taxpayer money needs to be used to support sports. First, it's a pride in our community, right? I think somebody mentioned earlier about other towns coming to our venues and having to use a porta potty or having to use their own lawn chairs when others don't. And I get the taxpayer burden, and I think there's a good middle ground between all of that. There's been a lot of talk about lights at the soccer field. I think that's important to a lot of us. And obviously it didn't go through in the last bond, but in future bonds, maybe there's a better way to make that happen. It doesn't have to be a new stadium, but it can be something that works for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Candidate Chad Beckheisen, you are the last speaker on this question.
I 100% support taxpayer money going to both sports and activities. Through my 27 years in education, it brings me a lot of pride when I see multiple football players marching in the band at halftime at some of the schools that I've been in. It also brings me pride to see all the athletes performing in the musical. It brings me pride to see all the different levels that students are able to show their expertise in whatever it might be, and that they're well-rounded individuals due to the fact that we have a community that can provide that to them. Now we just have to step up and provide them better facilities to do that.
Thank you all. That's the end of the round 2 questions. Thank you all for being on the hot seat up here today. It takes a lot of courage to run. It's also a great service to our community and the taxpayers. So thank you very much for your respect and your participation this afternoon. Jenny, comments for everyone here?
Not too much. I just want to thank everybody again for your time and everybody for being patient, respectful during this whole process. The Chamber of Commerce is very happy to be, putting on events like this, and we're just happy to have such a great turnout. And all of the great candidates were all able to be here. So thank you so much, and I hope you'll have a great weekend. There is an event downtown for the rec. They are having a family movie night and music, so let's not forget about that. But go ahead and have a great weekend. Thank you.